In or out, Utah, Texas A&M, and Miami, they all have a chance to either A, get in the playoff or solidify their ranking. But which one is going to fail?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We're going to be talking about the latest recruiting news at the end of the show, like we always do. Some commits, some decommits, each and every day here on the live show for the Portal Podcast. We're also going to be talking about Miami at Pittsburgh. I have a different view of that game than most people. We'll get to that later in the show, but I don't think there's going to be an upset there. A little hint on how I think that game's going to go. A&M at Texas. That game is a little bit different too. Aggies favored slightly, but there's a key stat that not many people are talking about, and it's honestly very surprising that does not favor the Horns. And then finally, we're going to get started here with Utah at Kansas. This is a game that I'm not sure why is not getting enough attention. If Utah goes in and plays great, maybe they have a shot at the playoff. But I said great. After the way that Utah played against Kansas State, do we feel very good about that? And that's where I'm going to start off. One of these three teams is going to fail. I don't know which one it is, but one of them is either A, going to just completely lay an egg in a big moment and leave itself out of the playoff, or A&M, it's going to lose its chance to be a top 4 seed. With that being stated, I don't know which one it's going to be. I'm just going to tell you how it should go based on the numbers and based on the eye test combined. All three should win. Which one do you think will fail? I'm going to start off with the Utah game and a really weird stat. Utah won last week against K-State despite being A, down double digits for part of the game, and B, giving up at home over 400 rushing yards. How is that possible? Well, the reason is Kansas State's defense stinks too. But at the same time, you don't expect that out of Utah. They've been pretty consistent for several years on defense. Not saying they're fallible in a way that's just completely terrible every week now because they had one bad game, but they've been so consistent. You just didn't think that was possible. So now what are you going to get? Well, the numbers are not exactly favorable right now for Utah. Utah is 101st in the nation with rushing D. Now, that last week certainly hurt them, but they're giving up 173.1. However, Kansas is just as bad, and matter of fact, slightly worse. 174.2 yards, 105th. There are only 136 teams in the FBS. So somebody's got to win. I'm still going to trust Utah because I like their staff, not that Kansas doesn't have a good one. Jalen Daniels is good. You got Dampier at Utah. But Utah has more to play for, and motivation in college football is the key. I've got them winning what could be the best pure game, just from aesthetics of any game this weekend. Got Utah 34-31, but out of the three games that I'm picking today, this is the one that I have the least amount of confidence. They gave up over 400 yards last week. I guarantee you Kansas would love to run any chance that Utah has at making the playoff. This is their chance at home, too. I don't think Utah is going to make it unless they go out and win like 58-0. That's not going to happen. But they have to give themselves a shot. Their run defense isn't good enough. By the way, a little extra stat for you. Last week, K-State averaged 11.2 yards per carry. I think that stat alone will keep Utah out of the playoff. Maybe not, but that's my thought. And again, I've got the Utes beating the Kansas Jayhawks 34-31 in Kansas in Lawrence, but we'll see. Second game. This one has some similarities, but with a stat, again, that I am shocked at. The Aggies travel to Austin to take on the Longhorns. Marcel Reed, a bevy of good skill players. I've got so many, I'm not going to try to pick just one. They always have somebody stepping up. But the key here is Texas on defense. They've got Muhammad and some other really good players in the secondary, but they also have holes. They're now starting a true freshman corner. They've got nickel. That's a true freshman. They've got problems. And to that end, take a wild guess where the Horns are in passing defense. Again, there are only 136 teams. They are 107th in pass defense. And Marcel Reed and his group are walking in to Austin. That's not good. They're giving up 242.8 yards per game. Part of that's garbage time from the Vandy game, etc. But they almost ended up losing. They played so bad in the fourth quarter. Mississippi State tore them apart. When some teams like that don't have the weapons that the Aggies do, tear you up, what am I supposed to think? For one, they're just going to look at Muhammad and say, throw to the other side or throw to the nickel, and they're going to do that. Grayson Littleton's a really good player. Great. But he's a slot freshman that's playing a ton of reps. That's not great. It's not. So I think that despite the fact that Texas's defense, running defense, their rush defense is 8th in the nation, 92.7. A&M might throw it 50 times. It may not matter. They might rush for 40 yards and it might not matter. This is one of the very few times that I think a running game is not as necessary because Texas is starting not one, but two true freshmen in their secondary. That's a problem. Secondarily, while A&M's defense isn't unbelievable, it's more consistent. They're 27th in rushing D at 118.8. Their pass D's 183.1. That's 23rd. They're not as likely to give up the chunk yardage plays as the Horns. The only reason I give the Horns a chance is they are getting better, like Arch in particular. Arch Manning's certainly getting better based on the last 3-4 weeks. But are they going to be able to hit enough plays? They're okay at receiver. Tight end hasn't been what they thought it would be. Running back has been injury prone, and the offensive line has been a problem, especially left guard and center. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. Aggies will run it a little bit better than them. I think they'll run for 80, 90 yards with Marcel Reed probably having a key 30 or 40-yard run at some point in the game because he's such an incredible athlete, just making guys miss on a broken play. And I got the Aggies winning. They're favored by like 2.5 on FanDuel. I think they'll win by more than that. I got them winning 27-20. I just think Texas will have too many inconsistencies on offense. And the Aggies, well, I don't think they're going to go off on the Texas D. This could be a game where if they just don't turn it over, they'll be okay. That's what got them in trouble against South Carolina. If they just don't turn it over, I don't think Texas is going to go 70-plus yards possession after possession. I just don't see it. When we come back, Miami at Pittsburgh. I'm going to dive a little deeper into this game. I think Miami's getting the short end of the stick of what people are talking about. Everybody seems to be picking Pitt, even though they're an underdog by like 6 points on their home field. We'll talk about that next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. For me, I look at it like this. The NBA is infamous for just that. Late fourth quarter pushes. It'll be a 10 to 15-point game most of the time. But how often do we see that a team gets hot? This takes one player, pick and roll, whatever it is, shooting behind the arc. Somebody's going to get hot. The question is, who is it? And are you going to be able to figure that out beforehand? Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is really awesome because you can get the tickets you need without all the hassle. In college football, we're to the best part of the season. We're the rivalry weekend, tailgates, rivalries, everything going on. And there's nothing quite like going to the game. If you're thinking about going to a big rivalry game, maybe it's Pittsburgh, Miami, maybe it's Indiana, Purdue, maybe it's the Iron Bowl, whatever it is, Game Time's got you covered. You don't have to worry about all the endless queues, hidden fees, and the prices jumping out at you at checkout. Game Time goes away from that, and that's why I use Game Time. I recently just bought 2 tickets to a basketball game, actually, and it was really easy because it's the app that gives the advantage back to fans, and it's the easy way to get last-minute tickets at the best prices, no surprise fees. What you see is what you get, and that's exactly why I used it. In and out in 5 minutes. Did all of the following. Found the team I wanted, the game I wanted, got my seat view, could actually see it on my phone from that seat, what the court looked like from that vantage point. entered my credit card information, and was out again, less than 5 minutes. That's pretty simple. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. If you have not already, become an everydayer. Subscribe to the Portal Podcast. Like it, share it, everything that you can to help out. I would truly appreciate it. Now it's Canes and Panthers. This game is going to be, I believe, at noon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's noon Eastern. It won't be as cold. Nighttime, trust me, in Pittsburgh, those games are really cold, but it's going to be in the 30s. Here's the question I had before I dive in to everything. And I know from growing up in the Midwest and being familiar with Pennsylvania, et cetera, too, the weather forecasts are a little iffy. Anything beyond about 3 hours, what they're projecting, don't put a lot of stock in it. Why? Pittsburgh's on the edge of the mountains. It's an area that is full of unbelievably unpredictable weather. Cold is one thing. Miami players won't like it, but wet and cold is my one caveat. For what I'm about to give, I'm basing this on a dry field. Are we clear? If it gets sleet, if it starts raining, and again, I could care less what the forecast says now. Zero interest. All I'm just going to go on is it's going to be dry. I know early in the week that's what they thought, but I've seen different forecasts with different ideas. If it is not dry, all bets are off on what I'm about to say. There is no way in the world anybody who has not grown up and lived in it can understand what catching a football is like, trying to fall on a fumble is like, etc., when it's a cold, slick football. Either you grew up in it or you didn't. So if it's dry, no big deal. Miami will adjust to the cold. I don't think it'll be a huge deal. But if it gets wet, what I'm about to say, I think Pittsburgh would win. But if it's dry, I think Miami's getting the short end of the stick here from media and a lot of people picking games. Just for whatever reason, the podcasts I've listened to, prognosticators, most people are picking Pittsburgh, despite Miami's obviously got a better roster. And I get that it's cold, etc., but it's like they're going to expect a blizzard or something. That's not expected by any stretch. Those kinds of things we kind of know when they're coming. Rain is different. It's much more hard to predict. So my question becomes, is there something I'm missing? Like Pittsburgh doesn't do great when they play against teams that are just as physical as them or have more talent. And I've got the numbers to back it up. This is the Pittsburgh run defense against teams that like to run the ball. Not necessarily great teams, but they can run it. West Virginia, 58 carries, 174 yards. Not a great total, but they had like 3 rushing touchdowns. They were pretty consistent. They gave Pittsburgh some problems, and they beat them. Louisville, it's the one game that a team with a talented running back didn't do much. 34 carries, 53 yards. Louisville's offensive line is iffy, but Brom really does try to establish the run. That's the one time Pittsburgh has done well. That was early in the season. Florida State, 40 carries for 170 yards. FSU averaged over 4 yards a carry. NC State, 19 carries, 161 yards. Not great. Notre Dame, 36 carries, 175 yards. Notre Dame hit big plays. Notre Dame was good in short yardage. Notre Dame tore them up. Georgia Tech, 33 carries for 121 yards this past week. Now, this one's a little weird. Early in the game, Georgia Tech didn't get it going. Second half, they figured it out. So Pittsburgh still won the war because they won the game. They played well in that first quarter and a half. But once Georgia Tech figured it out, look out. And I'm sure Miami staff is going to use that film. To that end, there's still another area that I'm concerned about in this game for Pittsburgh. I don't know if you can ever trust a coach with injury reports. You shouldn't. But a couple of weeks ago against Notre Dame, they had a freshman out there against Notre Dame's Malachi Fields. Terrible matchup. Malachi 6'4", 220 plus. Putting a freshman on him in bump coverage is chaotic. But that's what Pittsburgh does. This is who we are, yada, yada, yada. When I saw they were doing that, I'm like, this isn't going to end well. I didn't think it'd go as bad as it did, but 7 catches, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns later, Malachi Fields proved why you don't put freshmen on him. Well, Miami's got multiple guys, including a lot of people don't know about him yet. Joshua Moore is a guy that's coming on. He could be somebody that can make some plays. Josh is a big kid. He'll probably be the next version of Malachi Fields. And they also have CJ Daniels, and he's the guy I think is most important to the Canes. I'll get to Malachi Toney in a second for those Canes fans that are wondering when I'm going to bring that up. But it's very important that you make your matchups work and that you're a little flexible. The only thing that I don't like about Pittsburgh is they want to blitz quarterbacks, put pressure on them, and this is just who we are. When you play veteran quarterbacks or just straight up NFL quarterbacks, you have to mix it up. Pittsburgh doesn't mix it up all that much. They'll change from cover 2 look to cover 3. They got CJ Carr on that last couple weeks ago. But overall, it's not that hard to figure out what they're doing. And they don't have enough talent to run that scheme play in, play out, in my opinion. They just don't. So I don't think going against Carson Beck, who's a grad student, against CJ Daniels, yes. Malachi Toney, who, by the way, has 71 catches, 844 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's going to go well. I don't think the Canes are going to run over Pittsburgh. They'll run for 120, 130 yards, be my guess. But because of the matchups at receiver, I think they'll throw the ball all over the field and just dink and dunk their way down and let their receivers make plays after the catch, especially Malachi. If he had 8 catches for 80 yards and 2 scores, would it surprise me? No. Would it surprise me if CJ Daniels only had 3 catches but 75 yards? I think that's even more likely. You can't play freshmen in bump coverage against guys like that and expect a low number of explosives. The explosive plays, watch that for Miami. They'll run the ball consistently. I still don't think they're diverse enough. Speaking of mixing it up, their inside run game is the only run game they have. But if they don't utilize those guys a lot, I'd be shocked. And again, Carson Beck, he's a grad student. He has seen it all. He played at the University of Georgia, going against Kirby's defense every day in practice, plus playing against Tennessee and Bama. Like, he's seen everything. I think he's going to have a very big game. 240-ish yards passing, at least 2 touchdowns. Give me the Canes in this one, 31-20. I think they cover, and I think they will be the consistently better team throughout this game. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't like how Pittsburgh's matched up against teams that have special players like on the outside, et cetera, and they're putting those freshmen out there. And then Miami's offensive line is good, veteran quarterback, and they have to have this game to make the playoff. I think they should get in. I don't know if they will, but if they play like crap against Pittsburgh, they're not getting in. Even if they win, they need to win this game by double digits to have a shot. And I'm sure that Mario Cristobal and everybody on the University of Miami coaching staff is well aware of that. If that's not motivation, I don't know what is. So again, I look for a balanced offense from them to get it done. Now, when they're on defense, here's the other thing. I don't know how much this is going to be updated. Again, if you're somebody that gambles, especially, and you're believing any coach that gives out an injury report, you're an idiot, especially in a game like this. Do you think that anybody at Pitt's going to give you an accurate injury report? Their offensive line has been beat up all year. They lost another guy against Notre Dame. I don't know if he's back. But even if they were healthy, do I think they're going to handle Ruben Bain and those guys consistently? Probably not. I think they're going to struggle on third downs. They were 0 for 13 on third downs against Notre Dame. They struggled a little bit after they were rolling against Georgia Tech in third downs. They have their moments. They just don't pass protect well enough. I don't think that's a good matchup either. I think there will be a lot of Miami dropping 7 and forcing a true freshman quarterback in Heinzel to be patient. How many freshman quarterbacks do you know that are patient? I don't know any. I think that'll eventually lead to at least one freebie. And what I mean by freebie is a play where Heinzel either gets pick-sixed or it's a turnover where Ruben knocks the ball loose or one of the other guys knocks the ball loose. I mean, maybe it's just a combination of both. It wouldn't be surprising. But if Miami doesn't win the turnover battle in this game, I'd be very, very surprised. Graduate student at quarterback, freshman at quarterback. Miami advantage. And again, the only way I see them losing this game is if it starts sleeting, raining sideways. You can't prepare for that. Miami's receivers will struggle in that. I'm telling you, from living in the Midwest, it was hard for me to catch the football and stuff. It's not going to be the easy way to go for any kids that have lived down in Miami. That's going to be rough. But I don't think it's going to do that. So give me the Canes. I got them winning 31-20. Now to wrap up, just a few notes on some recruiting. And by the way, there are a lot of junior college and community college kids getting scholarships. I think that's really cool. Landon Drum at Arapahoe High School in Littleton, Colorado. He's going all the way out to West Virginia. He's an athlete, 6'2", 190 pounds. Tyrese Cathy, Northeast Mississippi Community College. He's headed to Georgia State, defensive lineman, 6'3", 280. Good for him. Florida Atlantic picks up Roman Garcia, Northeast Oklahoma A&M. Another defensive lineman, 6'3", 260. Delaware picks up Tyler Bell, quarterback, St. Peter's Prep. That's a really good program in New Jersey, 6'1", 190 pounds. Ben Mavinga out of Buford High School in Georgia. Arkansas picks him up. That's a young man that's been recruited for a very, very long time. So the Hogs get somebody before their coaching search is even done. CJ McCoy, the First Academy in Orlando, defensive lineman, 6'3", 275. He's going to Eastern Michigan. Laquan Merriweather, Southwest Mississippi Community College, defensive lineman, 6'2", 310 pounds. He's going to Troy. Jamarian Keys, Northwest Mississippi Community College, safety, 6'1", 195. He is also going to Troy. Here's a big one. After decommitting from Penn State, Messiah Mickens, running back out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, he is headed to play for Virginia Tech. James Franklin strikes, taking one away from Penn State. University of Louisiana Monroe, Isaiah Stokes, Zachary, Louisiana, just a little bit north of Baton Rouge, linebacker, 6'1", 200 pounds. He's headed to ULM. Derek Salley Jr., Hutchinson Community College, wide receiver, 6'4", 220. That's a big dude. Headed to Kansas State. J.P. Patterson at a Navarro College in Corsicana, Texas, safety, 6', 205 pounds. He's headed to Charlotte. Connor LaGros at a Tusculin High School in Oregon, offensive tackle, 6'7", 270, going to Boise State. Wake Forest picks up Michael Ahoha. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Avon Old Farms, that's a famous school up in Connecticut, 6'4", 190-pound athlete. Arkansas State picks up Stephen Moore, Garden City Community College in Garden City, Kansas. He's an offensive tackle, 6'5", 320, again, Arkansas State. Iowa State picks up Jeremy Lewis, Iowa Western Community College. He's an edge defender, 6'3", 255, going to Iowa State. Trip Palmer, San Juan High School in Blanding, Utah. He's an athlete, 6'4", 185, going to Utah State. Billy Ami Tapa Atodita, I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that, but Woods Cross High School in Woods Cross, Utah. He's an edge going to Utah State at 6'2", 225. The University of North Carolina picks up Julian Peterson, Winslow Township in Attico, New Jersey, cornerback, 6'2", 175 pounds. He's, again, going to play for the Tar Heels. And Brady Becanhuis, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right either, Arlington, Massachusetts, offensive tackle, 6'6", 295. He is going to play for the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin's played a little better here recently. I imagine that's certainly helped their ability to recruit. A few guys to note on the decommitment list. Lucas Smalls Allen, a kid out of Blessed Trinity, decommitted from Kansas. Michael Graham Jr., decommitted from Minnesota. He's out of Hutchinson Community College. Bronston Chaffin from Upperman High School in Baxter, Tennessee. Quarterback, decommitted from Georgia State. What do we got here? Utah. They lost Perrion Williams, Archbishop Riordan, and San Francisco athlete, 6', 163. And we also have Minnesota losing Derek Salley Jr. He was the kid from Hutchinson. He's no longer committed to Minnesota. And Jocks Felix at a Cardinal Riddle College Prep in St. Louis, a defensive lineman, decommitted from Iowa State, 6'3", 275. I'm going to do a couple more previews of the games for this weekend. One I'm going to do is the Iron Bowl. I love that. The other is the game, as they call it, Ohio State and Michigan. That'll be up before Saturday. Both of those games are fantastic. I'll get both those in. But thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.